I was doing a show with Cole Resort last year, and I can't even tell you which episode it was, but it was right around WrestleMania time. We were kind of talking about the Hall of Fame and WrestleMania, and I brought this up to him. And we talked about it, and my question in point blank was, it sounds great on the surface, but the way that they doctored it, the way that they did it, and with the things that a lot of guys have said about how the company only does stuff for public image, it would be a really shitty thing if that's why they did it. If it wasn't really for Connor, and I pretty much made the case that because of the things they have done with Komen for the Cure and how it's always about their public image. And it's never just about doing the right thing, because at the same time they're talking about how they are such a great company and do all these great things publicly. There's a huge shitstorm going on in a lawsuit with a former employee claiming essentially medical mistreatment and unfair work environment or unsafe work environment. And yet they're saying, look how great we are because we're giving this kid and his family this honor. So it was hard to talk about at the time, and Cole and I had a real honest conversation about it. And then when I was editing the audio, I thought of his family. And I thought of my daughter, who was, at the time she was 2, she's 3 now. But I thought, man, if I was his family and I heard some jack off on a podcast kind of demeaning the award that my son had just been given in his memory, and this great moment that WWE as a company had let us have, another moment essentially with our son, even though he wasn't here, or if it was my daughter or whatever the case may be, I felt like an asshole. Because I felt, he's never going to hear this, but on the off chance that he does, that's not the representation I want of what we do, what I do, what I talk about. And I don't want to be one of those people that gets on one of the million wrestling podcasts that fans do that tries to go out of their way to say outrageous shit just to try to get hits or clicks or listens or downloads. That's not what I want to do. So I cut it out. And then a couple months later, Justin Roberts came out on Twitter and said exactly, almost word for word, and again, I don't have the audio, I got rid of it, but almost word for word, the exact same thing I had asked Cole and said to him, my side of what I thought was going on. He said the exact same thing on his Twitter. Justin Roberts, the ex-ring announcer. And I didn't feel so bad, but I really regretted not posting that. But, I figured, hey, it's probably all for the best. And I wasn't going to say anything about it again. I was waiting to see what they were going to do this year about the Warrior Award, and I get a notification on my phone that WWE has nominated or selected former ABC News correspondent Joan London. Joan London to be the recipient of the Warrior Award. Now, for those of you who aren't my age or older, Joan London, as I said, was a former news anchor for ABC News, and she's a part of Susan G. Komen and has done some work with WWE. I think about 6 months ago she was on Raw because she has breast cancer. She's been fighting it. So that's her connection. Never gave a fuck about wrestling. Never hosted, other than, just your regular PR stuff with guys coming on the show. Never gave a shit about wrestling. Was never a huge fan or an advocate or someone who stuck up for it, like a Regis Philbin type guy. Never did any appearances really like Shatner or Chuck Norris or whoever, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger. Joan London. And it made me sad because I didn't want to say anything last year because of Connor and his family. I think that still stands because at this point it's not me demeaning what they got or their award or the moment. It's WWE. It's interesting. It's kind of shitty. Stephanie McMahon was a part of a business summit earlier this summer, late summer, I believe. And she was talking about today's environment of business. and what challenges you face. And one of the quotes from the seminar, from the summit, was, philanthropy is the new marketing. Instead of spending money on advertisements and commercials and trying to break through, the numerous messages and commercials that you see to get your product seen, the way that they're going to market their product and improve their self-image going forward is charity. Susan G. Komen partnerships, be a star, the reading challenges, all that stuff. That's not to give back to the community. And here she is, an executive, representative of the WWE, admitting this in front of a room of all these people in the business world. And then 6 months later, they nominate a celebrity associated with Susan G. Komen for the cure, which that I don't have time to get into right now. But Google search Susan G. Komen Con documentary, and you'll find all sorts of information. That's all it is, man. And I feel bad. I really think, part of me thinks it's a giant rib. They were on bad terms with Warrior. Vince lied for years. Triple H, this is the indie fan of me. Triple H was embarrassed by him at WrestleMania 12. They bury the hatchet after doing the documentary. They bury the hatchet. They bring him back. They put him in the Hall of Fame. He dies. And then they take his idea that was born out of a place of integrity and honesty. They took the Ultimate Warrior's selfless idea and turned it into a PR stunt. And I know Dana Warrior tweeted, someone on a Facebook group said this earlier to me. Well, Dana Warrior approved. Well, they're taking care of her. So if I was in her position, if a company's taking care of me and my kids, they could nominate, Ray Charles. I don't give a shit. As long as it wasn't like O.J. Simpson or someone. Send me them checks from Stanford, FedExed every week, and I'll come WrestleMania weekend and do your documentaries, and we'll call it a day. Again, I'm not knocking her. I'm not saying she doesn't have integrity. I'm just saying, why would she? Technically, she's an employee. Why would she stand up and... They're still honoring her husband. It's all kayfabe, right? They're honoring him. Oh, this is the Warrior Award. I don't see a Hulk Hogan Award. But with the history of the WWE and the way they took his selfless act and turned it into a publicity grab, it almost seems like a giant rib to get back at him for speaking out against WWE and burying Triple H at WrestleMania 12. So I hope it's, whatever. We know it's the case. I'm not even going to hope anything. But I guess let's just let's do the passive aggressive Roman Catholic way of, hey ma, they got the Vatican's shuffling priests around instead of sending them to the authorities for the shit they're doing.
The Catholic Church does a lot of good in the community.
Yeah, but you know what they're doing to the kids, ma.
Yeah, but they do a lot of good.
But they're...
Yeah, I know, but they do a lot of good.
Let's turn that passive-aggressive Catholic American way to the Hall of Fame and say, let's just enjoy what it is and take it at face value, folks. The WWE Hall of Fame has long been a marketing ploy, so why not just turn it into a whore fest anyway? Let's honor the wrestlers and some of the celebrities that get inducted for the things they have contributed to the business, and I guess that means we'll have to take the PR and marketing grabs